All right. YouTube is good. Facebook is close. Come on. All right. That's good. Sweet. All right, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Build with CEO. It is Tuesday at noon Central. And my name is Trevor, and I'm the CEO of Coach Catalyst. And today I have a guest, so I'm super excited to talk with Robin today. I'll have him do a little bit of intro. I'll kind of give a quick intro as well. But this kind of last month, we were talking a lot about marketing, email marketing being like a core component in a lot of coaches, or what I believe should be a core component in a lot of coaches' marketing strategy. I think most coaches are they are teachers at heart, and they really want to educate. And email marketing can be a great way to do this and help provide value to clients, which ultimately then gets you clients, because that's the goal of it as well, is to get more clients. And so that is something that Robin is doing very successfully with email marketing. And so I wanted to bring him on, and so I could kind of pull out all the tips and tricks and things that he's doing, so that those of you that are listening, if you're building out your email marketing, some things that you can emulate, because that's one of the best ways to find success, is just, do the same things that successful people are doing. We don't have to make it all that hard. So if you do have questions throughout the episode, definitely drop them into the chats. I've got both open on YouTube and Facebook, and we've got Riverside going too. So just drop it in there, and I can ask Robin. So Robin, thank you for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Trevor.
So let's just start. Quick background. Just give us a quick background, kind of what you're doing, how you're operating, just from a business standpoint.
Sure. Solopreneur with a private studio, doing mainly one-on-one and some semi-private and online coaching as well. Um, yeah, I've been doing that for almost 20 years now.
I mean, you've been in the brick and mortar for the whole time, and then it wasn't until
Mhm.
recently, correct me if I'm wrong, that you really dove into the online world.
Yeah, so I started diving into online space here pretty much after, around August, really started getting into it. I had a plan before COVID to get into it, and then things went awry. And but yeah, back on track and getting into it, and it's been growing steadily, so it's been good.
And that's awesome. I think it's a great transition. We see that with a lot of people that have a brick and mortar, and then they transition into online. But you haven't just said, "Hey, I'm done with brick and mortar. I'm going online." You kind of do probably a hybrid approach with some people, where maybe they train with you one day a week and they're doing other stuff on their own, and then some people that are only online. But you'd be able to kind of blend the both best of both worlds.
Yeah, I do have some what I call like hybrid clients too. That so some come in solely to the studio, and some do come in like once a week or once every 2 weeks, and then everything else is online. And then I have some purely online clients, which through Coach Catalyst
Mhm.
has been a big help.
Sweet. So, and for you, I mean, it's just you, right? Like you are the coach.
I am the coach. I mean, back in the day, I did have like 9 trainers working for me early on in my career. Decided to make the change to be a solopreneur for a while and just kind of enjoy. I mean, that's one of the good things about online coaching is I love coaching, and so you know came to a crossroads at one point where I'm like, I either have to grow the business and I can't coach anymore,
Hmm.
um, but I couldn't do both very well. It was one or the other. So I decided I love coaching still, and so I decided to go full on, be that solopreneur coach, and really knock it out of the park with my clients.
Right, which is a common scenario with a lot of coaches, right? A coach grows because they're good at coaching, right? And so they
Mhm.
get more clients, and a lot of people think that that next step is to ultimately bring on other coaches. But then now your role shifts, and it shifts from being less of a coach and more of a manager, and
Mhm.
sales and marketing becomes more important because now you have three mouths to feed instead of just one mouth to feed. And so you have to kind of choose that path. But I think a lot of people think that is the ladder that they're trying to climb, which yours is a good example, where you could create a really successful business that serves you in the way that you want to coach, and you can do it part online, you can do some hybrid, you can do some offline. Because that's another thing I think some coaches run into, is like, hey, I want to go online, because they think about like the scale and maybe time freedom and potentially location freedom. All of that stuff gets sold to them, but then they're like, I actually really like coaching people, and I like hanging out in person, and like it's a whole lot easier to cue someone if I'm standing next to them than it is to like send them a message and then get a video back and then send them another message.
Yeah, and and in studio, like my client retention is like basically in the decades. So my
Yep.
clients have never really left me. So it's also tough to just like, hey, I'm just going to leave that relationship. I really like the client roster that I have. So it really doesn't make sense for me to give that up unless unless I hated it. But I don't.
Yeah.
I love it. So yeah,
So that's awesome. I love that, and maybe that's maybe another episode to talking about like structure and how do we structure a really successful career inside of this industry.
right.
Because I think you've done that and modeled that. But today I wanted to talk really about marketing, and
Yeah,
specifically about email marketing. It's something that I talk about a lot. It's something that we use across our facilities, and we get clients from it every single month. And I think it's a great way for a coach to provide value, and then ultimately get clients out of it. So let's kind of talk about your email marketing journey, because there's probably going to be a lot of people on here that are like, oh, I really haven't done any email marketing and Robin's killing it with it. And so it's hard for me to emulate where Robin is at now. And so take me back to when you first started, why you first started, like what did you do right away to start building your list? Let's go back to like before email marketing, Robin.
yeah. Before email marketing, like with no lists, it was it just seemed like a logical progression in today's world with technology, and you'd find people wanting something from you, and so it's like I think hopefully everybody understands what a lead magnet is,
Mm-hmm.
something that you give in exchange for an email. um, I started doing email marketing years ago where it was kind of like just the next logical progression. Like I didn't want to leave interactions in person with a relationship where they would ask for something and I had nothing. Um, so I eventually came up with, I think my first lead magnet was like 5 mobility drills that I do every day um, back in the day. And then I would send that to people as a way to basically just like, here's some goodwill from Robin Mungall Fitness, and maybe you'll think of me and hire me down the road. Um, and then, of course, email marketing became more and more into my world. Um, I was doing that before there was something like Aweber and all that kind of stuff. I was just kind of naturally doing that and keeping an Excel spreadsheet, and then just sending him email through my. I think at the time I had a Hotmail account.
A Weber, that's like a blast from the past. This is
Yeah,
like
that's
early days, like automated email marketing.
yes, very, very, very much so. Um, and so I just, a lot of the tactics that I did back then, I still kind of do today, which works well. Um, I have a lot of conversations locally with people, and then get them on my email list. Um, with some sort of offer that would be of value to them. And then once they're on my list, they get a weekly email from me that, again, is something that I've cultivated into a what I think is a really good newsletter that generates a lot of conversation, a lot of engagement, and ultimately new clients.
So let's talk about that early on, right? So we had a lead
Sure.
magnet for people listening, right? Lead magnet is a way, basically an exchange of value. I'm going to give you this thing, and in exchange, you're going to give me your email. Could be
Hmm.
a PDF, could be a quiz, could be really any number of tactics there. But did you have a plan for kind of follow up at that point? Were you emailing weekly? Were you emailing once a month? What was your cadence early on?
Early on, I started with once a month. There was literally no direction. I was just going based on what like emails that I was getting in my inbox, and so I was like, well, once a month seems about right, and I would send probably an overly long email once a month because there's almost like a lot to cover. And then eventually, I realized that shorter not super short, but a little bit shorter emails once a week seem to be better. And I still do that now, but that's mainly because that's what I have time for. And so sending the weekly emails uh, is kind of what it ended up being, and it works really well. People uh, kind of I know well some people look forward to it that weekly email, which is good. um, it's not bugging anybody. It seems to be a good frequency. I could even go up to 2 times a week if I had the time for it. But yeah, so it kind of just evolved into a once a week thing. It made more sense.
So with once a week, what are your topics? What are you covering on each email?
So right now, my email is this is going to sound like I ripped someone off. It's called 321 Go. Um, I call it I've I called it Ready Set Go, and then 1 2 3 Go, and then a client of mine said call it 3 2 1 Go because it sounds more actionable. And so the meat of the newsletter is three exercise, so a little micro workout to do, um, two coaching insights, and one nutrition insight. So everyone knows every week they're going to get a three exercise workout that they can do of value, or sometimes it's three exercise variations of an exercise, um, one or the other, and then two coaching insights. Though that's where I would say the biggest engagement comes from those two things. So in those two insights, I really try to challenge people's beliefs, educate them on the problems that they might have, or at least the problems that I solve. Because some people aren't even sure. They're like, oh, maybe I need to lose weight, but they don't really know where the root cause of that is. So bringing that to their attention. And then a nutrition insight, another like challenging their beliefs, um, dispelling myths and things like that. That kind of you want to give people that aha moment and maybe challenge what they've seen or heard in media and stuff that either might not be true, or just make them question it and put their hand up and reach out and be like, hey, like you said this thing, it really speaks to me, or I thought it was, you know I heard different. And so it just gives you an opportunity to generate a conversation. So the newsletter really revolves around the 3 2 1 Go. um, and I always start the email out with a little story or a testimonial of something that leads logically into the coaching insights, that leads into the nutrition insight. And then I have a super signature at the end, which is like, here's two ways that I can help you. And so there's one thing that is either like, well, one of them is a coaching call, like book a call with me. And the other one is another like lead magnet within the the newsletter, which I change up. So I'll give you an example. This year, I've really been focusing on every month picking a different theme. So, for example, March was March Meltdown. So everything was all about fat loss. So talk about the story, about how someone lost 36 pounds. This is how they did it, and then go into the 3 2 1 Go format. Which, by the way, is also very fun and easy to write. That's another thing. So the passion in my email, I think, comes out because it's fun to do. And then the super signature is a fat loss troubleshooter, and then uh, a consult call. Um, so that way, if someone's not going to book a call with me, they can do the fat loss troubleshooter, which takes them through basically like a quiz. And then it gives them a result based on their points. And then it gives them an appropriate next logical step, which would be like an action call to
Mm-hmm.
one of my offerings. Yeah, so every month I kind of change up the theme and change up, you know, how I can help them within that, and I get to kind of see what month gets the most engagement, and then that way I know I can like rerun those
Right.
um, later on. So as the content builds, I can repurpose it and then repurpose it for social media as well. So it kind of it's like creating a feedback loop.
Yep. 100%. And so how are you judging how are you judging whether or not an email is maybe successful? Are you looking at open rates? Are you looking at clicks? Are you looking at like the click through rate? Are you looking at new signups? Like what are your KPIs?
Yeah, so I'm looking at open rates and click through rates, and also just like email, like who's actually responding back, like how many people are clicking on that like fat loss troubleshoot,
Hmm.
how many people are emailing me back with questions. And because I do challenge them every email, I do challenge them to reply back to me and have a conversation.
Right.
um, and so I do track those numbers. And then growth rate, I've that's really not the success of the newsletter. That's the success of, am I growing it with the right like actions out there in the media? Because when people out there have not read my newsletter yet. So
Right.
so a different KPI. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Um, and are you tracking like replies just manually, like just in a spreadsheet or something? Because I don't, or does, are you able to do that through your platform that you're using?
So I'm using Super Coach, but I just have people email me, and then I put that into a separate folder in my Gmail.
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
anyone who's replied, I just put it into my Gmail, and then I can look at the numbers really easily there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
So yeah, so I mean, we use Supercoach for my facilities, and we use it Coach Catalyst. So
yeah,
I'm familiar with a lot of those. I mean, open rate is always a good one, but open rate, it's like how good is your headline, right? Like that's
yeah,
where you can get people in there. I like that you're looking at the click through rate, and just so people that are listening, like there's some nuance here that I think is worth pointing out, right? You're providing value, so like your target market is who, just so that people kind of understand.
yeah. So basically, people feel like they've lost a step or two in life, and they want to get, they don't feel confident in their body, so they want to get strong. It's called confidently strong. Is my hat.
Cool.
Yeah,
Which is a much better. Let's call it an avatar, a much better
mm,
avatar than like people over 40. Cool.
yeah,
Like people over 40 is a lot of people. It's
yeah,
people that are capable. It's people that are not capable. It's people that are healthy. It's people that are ill. And yours kind of speaks to a specific, probably persona mindset
yep.
where I felt strong at one point and now I feel like I've lost a step. Okay, so Robin's going to be the person for me. And so I think that's actually a really good way to think about how we create a niche versus a lot of people do niches based upon demographic, but this is more on like almost like a psychographic.
Yeah, psychographic and like kind of stage of life, because it really it tackles usually three different stages of life. Um, like life events are usually the catalyst that causes someone to want to make a change, and so that kind of confidently strong, and the messaging and the wording that I always use is usually around things like that kind of get people go, oh my god, that's me. That's where I am right now in my life, and so it kind of really kind of it's like having that thing that just burrows in your head,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, and then they reach out.
So like that's really step one when we're starting to build this is like who are we talking to, right?
Yeah.
Because if we know who we're talking to, and like ultimately you're talking to your clients too, so
Mhm.
you have a lot of insight into the questions they're asking you every day in the facility or the questions they have about their programs, and that probably feeds a lot of the content for your or for your email newsletter, right? But those that we know who we're talking to, and so now we have that core piece, and then you're looking at like the pieces of our email, right? Like we have actionable advice. So Stephanie asked as a question with the 3-2-1 format, what was your 3-2-1 again? What was the three and the two and the one?
So three exercises, which is like a little three exercise, I call it a micro workout,
Mm-hmm.
and then two coaching insights and one nutrition insight.
Sweet. So it gives you like a structure, right? So when you're building your email, you kind of know what you're looking for. You're not just picking random things,
Yeah,
right? And so someone else could have a different structure, like whatever makes sense for you. Some people
yeah,
theme it by days. If you're emailing multiple times a week, maybe like we have like us at our facility, like Mondays usually some sort of mindset where there's an email based around mindset. Wednesdays usually around the workouts. Fridays usually around nutrition or something like that. And so like having those themes just helps to organize in your brain, like, hey, what am I writing about versus just like blank slate, what do I talk about today? And then I like your monthly themes. I think that's another good way to structure,
yeah,
right? Because like as humans, we do really well with constraints, right? And so like if you give yourself constraint, I'm going to talk about this thing, you're going to be way more creative than like I can talk about anything. Because then it's like, oh, what do I talk about? Right? Constraints are actually a good thing. And then the other thing that I want to note, there's really two other things. One is the reply. I think that's really, really important, right?
mm,
One from an open rate standpoint, meaning Google and all email servers are going to look favorably upon people that get lots of replies,
mm,
right? Because that basically tells it that, hey, these are valuable. People like these. They're replying to it. So getting people to reply is a good thing from a deliverability standpoint. And then two, my guess, if I had to guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, you probably get the most new clients off of replies than any of the other things.
100%. Yeah, for sure. Um, the other good thing about like doing like the themes or having the structure is it almost in a way kind of creates a sense of scarcity, like almost like we're talking about this. It's like March meltdown, we're going to move on to something else next month. So like the last email of the month, it's like we're going to be moving on. But if you're in need of losing a few inches, that's part of your confidently strong journey, then let me know now, because next month we're talking about this. And even though they could contact me anytime about that,
Hmm.
it just kind of gives them that sense of urgency, like, oh yeah, I got to get on top of this, while the topic is red hot right now.
Right.
And so I think that also helps as well, for sure.
And then the last piece, right? The last piece, and we recommend this with all emails, right? Is this idea of a super signature.
Mhm.
So I don't know where you got it from. Dean Jackson was the one I think that ultimately like created this thing. I got it from Pat Rigsby. A lot of people have got it from Rigsby
Yeah.
because he's kind of an OG in the industry. Do you remember where you heard it from?
Mark Samuels.
Okay, sweet. Yeah. So I mean, it's simply just like in an email we have 80% value, and then at the bottom we just have 20% promotion, and it's just like, hey, when you're ready, here are 3 ways I can help, or 2 ways I can help, or whatever, right? And we just want people to go deeper with us,
Mhm.
right? So you have another lead magnet where you're just providing value for someone in a different way. I like that you're changing it. That gives you insight into what does your audience want, what are they interested in, right? And then you can do more of that, or you can repeat that later, type of stuff, right? And then we typically have like decent, or I should say, like the most highest value thing at the top, like maybe that's signing up for a 6 week program, or maybe that's jumping on a coaching call, or like something that it's going to take a little bit for someone to do that. They've probably been on your list for a while. They understand who you are. Maybe they've done a call before and they may jump on that at that point. Right? Probably the new person that just jumped on your list isn't jumping on a coaching call. Like that's just not how humans build relationships. Right. But then the other two down below are a little bit lesser of asks, right? Download this lead magnet or check out this thing, right? We're just basically providing more value, stacking that side of the equation so that when the person is ready, because we can't always predict,
Yeah.
right? We can help nudge it along, like what you said, with some urgency pieces, but like they're going to probably have a moment. They look in the mirror, they play with their kids. There's like something that's like the trigger that's like, I need to do something. It's gotten too far. I'm in enough pain now to ask for help, right? And so the whole goal of all of us is just to be top of mind when that moment happens. And then you potentially, and probably in your case, have a client for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, or if you are dealing with an older population, until they die or they move away,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, for sure. Um, and like to your point, when you said, like, when they're ready, I actually have that in my in my newsletter, in the super signature, right? Like, if you need help, here's this. When you're ready,
Mm-hmm.
contact me for an actual consultation. It works really well. I do have two offers, that are like coaching offers within my newsletter and program. One is like, I call it momentum, and
Mm-hmm.
the idea is like, 6 weeks. Let's just get you on the right track, which is nice because I can do different additions to it. So, like, for example, with Coach Catalyst, you're doing like the summer slim down. Well, I can do momentum summer slim down edition,
Mm-hmm.
and so I can it can use leverage Coach Catalyst for that as well. So it becomes a really nice synergy type of thing, where I can change those topics based on where people's mindsets are at within the year.
And that, I mean, and those things are great. Like the bulk of your coaching is private, semi-private. Like it's more
Mm.
personal coaching, right?
Yeah.
But you can still run these programs. You can still do these other things just to like get that person that maybe isn't ready to fully commit, right? They want to try one. And again, it's just building a relationship. Hey, they've gotten some results here. Now we potentially offer them into something else, but it's a way for them to just get started and get a feel for what coaching is like for us.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's online especially. It it's been great. Like, my goal for online was, I want 10 clients by June. I'm at 7 now, with 2 people in the momentum program. So if they continue on,
Sweet.
but so far I'm batting 100% with the momentum being converted into my longer
And the
online
momentum, is
program.
that just a short-term program? Is it like
That's
4 weeks?
6 weeks. Yeah.
6 weeks? Okay,
Yep.
cool. Like a 6 week front end offer, low barrier offer,
Hmm.
pretty standard, right?
Yep.
And where did all those online people come from? Email list?
All of them came from my email list.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, the one thing I love about email, and Genevieve, we'll get to your question here after this. One thing I love about email is it's the ultimate scalable marketing asset. Whether you write an email to one person or whether you write an email to 100,000 people, it takes about the same amount of time, right? And you hit send, and you can at least guarantee it will get somewhere in their inbox, right? Hopefully it goes to their inbox. If it's a Gmail, maybe it goes to promotions or maybe it goes to one of the other ones. There are some things we can do early on in that process where we get the person to reply to it or we get them to whitelist it, or we just kind of ask them right away, getting where they confirm their email right away. That can be another way to make sure, like with most email platforms, you can toggle something on where it basically says they need to confirm their email. That just increases the likelihood of it landing where it needs to land. And then again, we all kind of like we have a credit score. We're going to have like an email score per domain. We don't know this, but it's being built on the back end. And that score goes up when we get replies, when we don't have very many unsubscribes, when people aren't marking us as spam. And then it goes down if lots of people are marking us as spam, if our open rates are really low, right? And so that all determines deliverability and where that is going to show, right? And so those can all be things that we can use to help improve email deliverability. And then ultimately, and I don't know if you do this, Robin, but do you like every 6 months or once a year like clean your list?
Yeah, I mean, I try to scrub it with this, and the good thing about like the system is it kind of tells you like how many bounce backs
Mm-hmm.
and things like that, so you can take a look at that, and then you can, scrub those people off of your list.
And I mean, it's even worth scrubbing. And you see a lot of people do this. Like, as you start to build, you don't want the biggest email list. You want the right people on your email list, right? And so
Yeah,
if someone hasn't opened your email in a year, like let's just get them off, right?
yeah,
And because they're costing you a very fractional amount of money, but they're also costing you an open rate as well. And so if they're interested in something down the road, right, they'll download a new thing and then get back on the list.
mhm,
And that's just another way to look at cleaning the list, building up your email score, and all of that just to keep it clean.
yep, for sure.
Robin, Genevieve asked about, can you explain your momentum program a little bit?
Sure. It's pretty simple. It's a 6 week offer for an online coaching program. It's pretty structured, and it's designed to get people, back on track. So it's basically working on, basic habits, 3 workouts a week and check-ins, basically getting them into um, the world of coaching, getting some wins underneath their belt,
Mm-hmm.
and also getting them used to the online coaching experience.
Yep.
And so the idea is like, oh, I can do this. You know, I don't promise the world in 6 weeks. I basically say we're gonna set you up so that way you feel confident what you're doing going forward. And of course, throughout that 6 weeks, week 4 and 6, um, I make offers to them to like, move into
Right.
my confidently strong online coaching program, which is the longer term one. So it's just kind of very simple, and it's just kind of again, I always think, what's the next logical step for them, and move them forward through that. So that way,
Right.
it just everything makes sense for them. Um, and then the good thing is, when they sign up for the Confidently Strong program, they're already in the system. They have the
Mm-hmm.
app. They've done the workouts. They know how to do everything. So nothing is scary. They can
Right.
just like we can just now get a deeper dive into the coaching experience.
And all this comes back to understanding the person that you're speaking to, right? You're speaking to you personally. You're probably speaking to the person that kind of fallen off on workouts. They're not in a consistent schedule. Maybe they want to lose a few pounds, right? They've maybe lost a step. And so, like, here's a short term program to at least get you moving in the right direction. I like the term momentum, right? We're starting to
Hmm.
build some momentum. And if they're having success with that, just kind of showing them what that next step is, the next program, because there are going to be people that want to continue afterwards. But
Yep.
we need to understand who we're speaking to and like solve one piece of their problem, right? We're not trying to solve everything in that little 6 week, but what's one thing that they're aware of right now that they're like, hey, I'd be willing to pay some money, or I'd be willing to give some value in order to start solving this thing.
Yeah, and I think it's when you make it simple like that and it's not so overwhelming, you get someone that's go, "Ah, I can do that." They
Hmm.
have that already built-in belief, like they know that they can do it or they believe they can do it. And the fact that you're not like the word momentum, like they kind of know exactly what's going to happen. They're
Hmm.
going to get momentum in their journey, and that's what they're paying for. So it's right there.
I love it. And just so there's a little bit of context. What do you charge for the for momentum?
So right now it's 4.99.
Okay, for the 6 week program.
Yeah,
And then what is your like if they were to move into coaching afterwards, like what's the price point there?
360 a month.
Okay, so so I'm glad that those are your numbers because it's in alignment, right? The person that buys momentum is going to be able to pay for coaching afterwards, right? I
Yeah,
think sometimes people have this disconnect of, hey, I have my front end offer for $20, right? But then my coaching is 400. Like it's just you're getting
yeah,
different people,
yeah.
right? With that, and my guess is, and tell me if you've kind of done some research on this, but the people that have purchased momentum have either A, been past clients, or B, been on your email list for a long time and you've been delivering value to them and they just decided to jump on it now, or did
Mhm.
you find something different?
Yeah, a bit of both. So, like one of my I just got a referral yesterday, and or on the weekend, and signed them up. But the first person was from my list, and she'd been on my list for I don't know a couple of years,
Yep.
and that happens a lot. I always
Yep.
get like engagement. We're like, oh, I've been on your email list for X amount of time, years, sometimes, and you know, and sometimes they'll comment on an email that you wrote a long time ago, and it just kept stuck with them for a long
Hmm.
time, and then for whatever reason, like I wrote one about beast eating, boredom, emotion, anxiety, social, tired, common reasons why you overeat.
Hmm.
I had that in a newsletter, I want to say 2 years ago, and I had a number of people that contact me, and that was like just been burrowing in their head for a long
Hmm.
time until eventually they raised their hand in another email they saw, and it just kind of, you know, it clicked,
Right.
and they get on. So yeah, kind of comes from everywhere, but being consistent with the newsletter, I think, is the key.
That's huge. I mean, that is the difference maker. Genevieve asked, how much personal input do you add each week to your programs? And I would be curious if we're talking about momentum or most likely talking about like actual confidently strong coaching.
So yeah, confidently strong. I'm checking with clients pretty much like every week. I'm definitely checking in. I don't know if she has the Coach Catalyst system, but it makes it
Yep.
super easy to check in with them and to upgrade their programs. But I do have because I have clients with kind of similar mindsets. I've created several like templates that I can just individualize
Hmm.
for clients, so it does lower the workload a little bit. And then, of course, I have two weekly check ins that I alternate through. One's a lifestyle check in, and then the other one's, I call it the Goldilocks form. So, based on what we're doing, is it too easy, too hard, just right? Is there anything more I can do for you right now? And it kind of leaves it a little bit open
Hmm.
for them to kind of let me know. And then I can see that. And then again, the idea is to generate a conversation, right? If
Right.
it's too hard, okay, we have to talk about a new strategy. If it's just right, let's keep going. Good stuff. High fives all around. And if it's too easy, again, okay, what can we take on right now? And if there's anything else they can put in there, and then have a conversation. And clients can message me anytime through the app as well. So it keeps it pretty simple.
Right.
And then
No,
yeah,
yeah, I like it. I like it. And each coach kind of has to find their own flow with clients. Like, how
yeah,
much do people need, right? And I think a few things that you said there, you're asking. Like, you're just asking, like, hey, are we getting this right? Do we need to do more? Do we need to do less? What else do you need from me? Like, those conversations are the best. I want everyone always asks kind of what's the perfect formula, and I think it's going to be a little bit different for each client.
Mm.
right? You got to have your level, your kind of baseline of whatever what you're going to give everyone. But certain people need a little bit more, certain people need a little bit less, and it's just the art of coaching.
Yeah, I mean, I used to try to think like when I first started, I was like really hardcore with the structure. Like, okay, we're gonna have a coaching call every week,
Hmm.
one that got to be too much, and also no one needed that. It was almost like, why are you calling me?
Hmm.
Um, and then eventually I realized like we don't even need to have a coaching call maybe ever. Some clients do,
Hmm.
but now it's a kind of like on a need to do basis.
Hmm.
And then of course through the app too, a lot of times I'll just make a video of me talking to, hey, what's up? I saw you said this on the form,
Yep.
or I saw your workouts are doing this. I always find like if I do a little video message to them instead of just like a text message, um, the response is like almost right away, and it just engages clients really well. So especially if you see some clients that are kind of dropping off with their workouts or their nutrition,
Hmm.
doing that little video message, it's been kind of a game changer.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a human connection, it's a human component, and that's one of the things that's lost, right, in a virtual setting, right? If I'm not seeing someone on a regular basis, once a week, twice a week, that kind of stuff. That video piece goes a really, really long way.
Mhm.
And I've got some other ideas. I'm going to do another episode on this, but some other ideas on how I think people can really um, personalize each week without it taking a ton of time. Last thing, how are you building your email list right now? Kind of what lead magnets, obviously, but like where are they? Where do you put them? How do people get on them? Right? Because
Mm.
it's great to have a lead magnet, but if people can't find it, it's useless.
Yeah, yeah. So admittedly, my social game is weak. I feel like I'm an old man in that category. Um, so it slowly grows there. Um, I've been focusing a lot on local stuff. So I got a couple of kind of lucky things going on. One, my studio is located inside of a curling club. Curling is a sport here in Canada. Um, and I leave sheets out there for the curlers. Now, a lot of them are seniors, but there's men's and women's leagues as well in the evening, with a QR code on like stretches and stuff like that to do for curling. And of course, a lot of curlers golf, and I'm a big golfer. So now's the season where we're switching to golf season. So I have mobility drills and stuff like that for them to download there. So I leverage that. Um, and then I have luckily some good relationships with doctors. I used to be a fitness coordinator at a hospital, so they're still on my list. And
Hmm.
they actually, I give them stuff to give to some of their patients.
Just like a little
And
like postcard or something that they can give their patients if like.
yeah, a little postcard of so I call it the three beautiful stretches, and they know, all the doctors that I've worked with, they know what they are.
Hmm.
Um, and of course, for them, they're like, "Oh my god, my back feels so much better." Da 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 da.
Hmm.
So I said, I gave them these cards to give to clients or patients, I guess,
Right.
that could use it, and so they give them away there, and of course, they'll sign up for it on my email, and then online, I'm just transitioning right now, actually this week, to another quizzes seem to do really well. Like my fat loss troubleshooter did really well online. Surprisingly, um, my YouTube videos have been drawing people to my landing page for my
Okay.
newsletter better than anything else. I didn't see that coming, but that it started in December, and I'm like, hey, well, let's roll with it.
Hmm.
And so I'm changing to another quiz, and the quiz is basically like about like if you feel like you've lost a step or two, let's find out where you are on that journey to get back in shape. And so it takes them through a little five questionnaire. Don't want to be too long
Hmm.
on it. And based on how they answer, it gives them an identity, right? You're the functional warrior, you're the momentum seeker, you're the longevity seeker. And so it gives them a little identity with what their challenge is based on what they answered. Like, sounds like you have, a challenge of being consistent with your time. You have a challenge with you have a pain or an injury, and then it gives them a specific call to action, um, which is nice because the idea is to get them on my list, but also see if I can generate a conversation right
Hmm.
away, so I can actually have a personal interaction with them, like within days of them actually downloading that thing.
Right. No, I love that. And anyone that's listening to this, hopefully you started to pick up on this a little bit. But um, Robin, I think you do a really good job of naming things and creating analogies and creating acronyms and creating things that are memorable, right? Like you're the Beast, right? The Beast
Hmm.
acronym, right? People remember acronyms way better than if you would have just explained all of those things,
Hmm.
right? And so I think you probably do a better job than most of taking concepts and giving them a identifiable like thing
Yeah.
acronym, like what you're even talking about, like someone completes a quiz and we have these categories that they fall into, right? Like it gives an identity to it, which makes it more memorable and also makes it a little bit more real, and then it's easier to have a conversation around that. So like hopefully people that are listening are kind of picking up on this stuff, and like how can you, in the way that you coach, how can you start to create acronyms, analogies, one liners that people can remember, because when you write an email about it, that'll stick in their head versus just the information, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's super cool. Stephanie had a question with like your 360 a month program. Is that group or one to one or hybrid, and how big? And then her second question is, how big is your email list right now?
So Momentum is a 6 week program. Is that one she was asking about? Yeah, for
No,
the
I think it's like
360.
your after that, the 360 a month.
Oh, Confidently Strong. It's 360 a month. It's one on one. So yeah, not group. I don't know if I had a really huge list, I'd almost be forced to do a group. But right now, I'm doing one on one and
Or just
uh,
charge more.
or charge more. Yep, yep, one of the two. And then the second question: how big is my
How,
list?
it's kind of like asking how much people make. So like you don't have to answer it, but it's okay.
Yeah, so I'm happy to answer it. So my list is around 2,700, but I will
Okay.
say this: I, I mean, years ago I had a list of 16,000.
Okay.
Um, to your point, Trevor, earlier, if you have the wrong people, it's a total waste of money.
Hmm.
And I had a lot of the wrong people on the list because I had a business. My business focused on like a different niche, I guess you could say, earlier on, and
Yep.
I did not like that niche. Like it wasn't for me, and so I scrubbed pretty much all of them off because I just I'm like, this is not the conversations. I felt like I was being pulled in conversations that I didn't want to have, and so when I changed that, I'm like, I'm going to start from scratch again, and see what happens. And so I started from scratch and built it back up.
So there is an article by Kevin Kelly. He's kind of in the tech space, where it's called "A Thousand True Fans." And so, if you
Mhm.
can get 1,000 true fans, you can create a really, really cool, sustainable business with just 1,000 true fans. And so, I think everyone always thinks more is better, bigger is better, all of these things. But better is better, right? The right people on the list is better. And so I'll see if I can. I'll post that in the Facebook chat. I just minimized a few things, so I don't know where it is anymore. So I'll get it in there once I get it back up. I get the right screen up, and then we'll go from there. So, Robin, I don't want to take up much more of your time. I know you got a business to run and things to get back to, but anything else that you want to share?
Um, maybe just one little quick tip, as when I send an email out, my open rate is somewhere around the 50% mark. I do send at least in the super coach system, you can like resend to unopened emails.
Yep.
So I do a weekly resend to unopened emails, which gets another 10 to 15%.
Do you
Yeah.
send on Mondays, or when's your what day do you send?
So I send on Thursdays.
Okay.
Thursday, I don't train clients on Thursdays, so I typically will write one or two newsletters on Thursdays. So that way, weeks that I might miss,
Okay.
I
So you'll
already
batch it.
have. Yeah.
Yep. Sweet. And then you resend on a Monday or Tuesday?
Yeah, I think I have it set up for sending it 4 days later.
Okay. Yeah, and you can automate that in Supercoach.
It's
So even if
automated. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I don't think too much about it.
Yeah, that is a great thing. If your frequency is lower, right? Maybe you're sending once a week or twice a week, resending the unopens,
Mm,
changing the subject line can be a
yep.
great way to just get more eyeballs, right? You get more people to open it. And
Yep.
so yeah, you're taking a 50% open rate and moving it to 65, 70% open rate. Like that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Well, if you want to kind of learn about you or even get on your newsletter list, right? Like where's the best way to find you on the internet right now?
Uh, well, you can go to my newsletter landing page if you want. It's 321go.rmfit.com.
I'll put it in here. I had it
Sure.
pulled up before this, so I got it
Sure.
in the chat.
Yeah.
I I think that's a good place. I know. I think you got an IG account as well that you're starting to build out.
Yeah, as I was starting to, I had a plan for Instagram and actually Q2 here, quarter two. That's my plan. I got about 30 pieces of content already locked and loaded, so just about scheduling it out.
Hmm.
Um, and my plan at the new year was to do a little bit more Instagram. Most of my clients are over 50, so Facebook is a better place. So
Yeah.
I can obviously do both. But then, like I said, I did like a couple of mobility videos or whatnot on YouTube. I don't care too much about YouTube, but now I'm been doing more just because it suddenly I went from like my like 67 subscribers, which were all clients doing videos just for them,
Right.
to like closing in on 1,000, which is still probably not a lot, but I'm like,
That's that's awesome.
yeah, I'm like, okay, well, it's YouTube's loving me right now, so I'll give them some love back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think YouTube in the stuff I'm reading, YouTube is really the future. I mean, Google owns YouTube. Google controls search, right?
Hmm.
At least at this point,
Yep.
right? And so video can be a great way. And if you like doing video stuff, it's easy to break video down into email, into posts, into lots of other mediums, and just linking to that stuff as well is a great value add. Especially if you're probably in more of the movement sphere, right,
Mm,
where it's easier to see stuff than talk about stuff.
yep.
But I think it's even great for nutrition coaches if you're maybe doing demonstrations on showing how much sugar is in 5 different popular beverages or things that really are aha moments for people. So no, this has been good. So
Awesome.
definitely, guys, I think getting on people's email lists that are doing it really well is a good thing, and kind of just watching how they do stuff and how they format it and how they communicate with their list is a good way, and just model that stuff until you really start to figure out your vibe, and it'll come after you do it enough. It'll take you to a place where you want to do or where you want to go. And probably similar to you, your emails don't look like they did a decade ago. They're different now. They're a little bit more polished, but it just takes reps, right?
For sure. Takes reps.
So
Just like working out.
that's right. There's no shortcuts, right? That's the world we live in. But sometimes we forget about that with our business stuff. But it's the same concept. So, Robin, really appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out, man.
You betcha. All right. Take it easy. Thank you.
All right, everyone. See you next week. All right, there we go. Cool, man. I
Perfect.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, you betcha. Thanks very much. And
Yeah,
yeah.
I
Any
will. I'll send you the Vimeo recording after this. So if you want to do anything with it or you want any pieces from it, you can download the raw recording,
Sure.
and then go from there as well. So I'll do that. We usually have that up in a couple days.
All right.